Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. Here, this is the spot where the conversations are pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Did you bring your thinking caps? Because it's time to put them on. Because the conversation starts now. Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. You're at the spot, you're at the place where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, the responses are never dull, and we have the amazing, incredible, one and only Enrique Morones from San Diego, California. He is a trailblazer in the Latino community when it comes to civil rights and activism. Mr. Morones is the founder and now, I want to make sure that this is right. You are the founder of the San Diego-based human rights organizations Border with Angels, but is that the one that you retired from?
Yeah, I retired from Border Angels 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
I'm also the founder of the House of Mexico, and I'm the founder and executive director of Gente Unida, all human rights.
All human rights organizations. Brains, it is imperative that we get out the vote. Our democracy is hanging in the balance right now. Enrique has worked with President Obama, actors, entertainers, but also with people that are homeless, disenfranchised, doing everything that we can to make this world a better place. San Diego's Barrio Logan is one of my favorite places in the world. And in the green room, we were talking about how people are being moved out from different industries. The ballpark is there now. And we don't know if there's intimate domain, but now there's not affordable housing. There are people that are on the street that don't need to be there. There is the border wall issue. I'm still waiting for the wall. We're still waiting for DACA. What's going to be happening with that? There's so much that we have hanging in the balance right now. Give us some encouragement, Enrique, please.
Sure. So the wall, which is a third of the U.S.-Mexican border, has led to the death of 12,500 people. Wow. That's 12,500 people. And I can guarantee there's people that are listening to this that are supporters. The brains are out there. They're supporters of human rights. And I can almost guarantee you they can't name one of the people. Well, I'll give you the name of one. Of the 12,500 people that have died since 1994, there was an 8-year-old boy. His name was Marco Antonio Villaseñor. And he crossed with his father the only way he could, because these people don't have a line to get into. They can't get visas. So he had already crossed. He was on the Texas side, and he became very thirsty. So he asked his father for some water. And his own father wouldn't give him water. So he asked the next man and the next man. He asked 18 men for water. And they wouldn't give him water. And the reason they wouldn't give him water is because they were already dead. They were already dead. 19 human beings perished. Wow. We also had what happened in San Antonio recently with a truck with 53 people inside that died. We also saw what happened in Uvalde, where 19 children and 2 teachers were killed. If those kids had been white kids, the law enforcement would have been in there in a minute. Just imagine those kids being at La Jolla Country Day. You mean to tell me that the police wouldn't have charged the killer? Of course they would have. We all saw the Haitians being whipped by the Border Patrol. If those Haitians were Ukrainian, they wouldn't have whipped them. Racism is a huge problem in this country, and that's why we got to get out the vote, because we don't want that old administration that got into office because hardly anybody voted. That's the only reason he got in. We got to get out there and vote. And I don't want to hear any of this. Well, my guy is Bernie Sanders. He's not on it, so I'm not going to vote. That gives the other side an extra vote. We got to get out there. We got to put a stop to it. And
let me ask you a question about racism. Why are people so afraid of blacks and browns? If we were the barbarians that they predicate us to be, we should have had this handled. Why are they afraid of us?
Because they don't know us. People are afraid of things they don't know. So they hear these things on these crazy right-wing news and so on and so forth, and they believe it. They believe it. And then when I tell them, really, have you ever, like, for example, with Mexicans in Mexico, they'll say, some people will say these terrible things, and I'll go, have you ever been to Mexico? No. Do you know of it? Oh, they go, yeah, I do know one Mexican guy. but he's the guy that works under my lawn. He's really nice. He's different than everybody else. And I go, I don't think he's different. I go, I remember one time when I was with President Obama, he said, before we were us, we were them. And what
That's
he
right.
meant was, before we were us as a people, we were the ones out there that were looking for work at the bottom end of the economic scale. That's a universal thing. It's not
That's
unique to
right.
the United States. There's 250 million undocumented people in the world today. The US only has 11 million. Most people, believe it or not, have no desire to come to the US. They want to avoid it
Right.
because they know about the school shootings, the racism, the
Right.
double standards. So there's good people in the US just like there's good people in every country. There's good people in Iran, there's good people in China, there's good people in France, there's good people and there's bad people in those places. So it's our job to make sure that we got to get to know each other. We got to build bridges, not walls. That wall has killed 12,500 people. We shouldn't have a wall. A long time ago, when I was in professional baseball with the Padres, the commissioner of immigration was named
Oh, you
Doris
played
Meisner.
baseball?
No, but I used to, but I got hurt and I was the vice president of the team in the front office. So we had a press conference with the Padres and my boss, Larry Lucchino, was there. And the commissioner of immigration back then, Doris Meisner, she said, oh, Enrique, I want to congratulate you for your work with the migrants, blah, blah, blah. Aren't you going to congratulate me for Operation Gatekeeper? I said, absolutely not. Operation Gatekeeper was a wall. I go, that wall is leading to one or two people dying every day. Why would I congratulate you for that? And on top of that, if those people dying crossing the border were Canadian, you would have shut down that wall right away. So she got mad. She goes, are you implying racism? I go, let me make this perfectly clear. I'm not implying it. I'm stating it.
Wow.
Double standard. Yeah. So I
Right.
speak out, and that's why I get attacked by the Union Tribune. That's why I get attacked by the hate groups. But I'll double down and do more of my activism because I speak truth to power, and
That's right.
I will not change. I'll only do more. I'll only continue to do more.
What are some of the top issues that are facing the Latino community right now? I'm sure that they're not a lot different than what's happening to every other constituent in the world, but really, what are some of the issues? Because I'm not seeing a lot of outreach by the Democratic Party to get the support of the Latino voter.
Yeah, both parties aren't doing much outreach. There's pretty much the same issues as everybody else: the economy, healthcare, education. Those are the top three issues. Maybe immigration is a little higher up on the Latinos' view than other communities, but it's still that way down there. But they're important. But we are diverse. There's Latinos that are Republican, Democrat, Independent. There's Latinos that are religious, that are atheists, et cetera, et cetera. But I think they try to put us all in one group, and I get interviewed by everybody. I've been on all the major networks, and then they'll say, "So what do Latinos think about this?" And I'll go, "I don't know. I can tell you what I think because
Right.
we're very diverse." Or like they're never going to ask me, and of course they shouldn't. They won't say, "What do women think about this?" I'll go, "You should ask a woman. Why would I?" Yeah, so it's the same type of thing. And yeah, but people need to know the truth. They need to know that there is a big difference between the two parties. One party is pro-war. One party has been lying and promotes violence, and they say they don't. But who did the January 6th? Who's
Right.
the one that passed the
Right.
bill
Right.
to
Right.
build a wall? Who's
The
the one that
dogs, the drones would have been on us
guns?
like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it would have been on us like, I don't know what. But now there was no insurrection. There was very fine people on both sides. And what really scares me is that the Republican Party, I'm an independent as well, and I have voted previously Republican. I have not always gone Democratic because I didn't agree with certain people or the person that represented them. But even with that, lies are lies. And if democracy is diminished, that is going to affect Republicans, independents, and Democrats. People can't see that for some reason.
Right. That's right. And it's important that we realize that there's a lot of fake news out there. The Republicans are really good at talking points, sticking to their talking points. But just look at the facts. I mean, the craziness of some of these people, the things that they're saying about President Obama, the attack on Nancy
On
Pelosi,
Nancy Pelosi's husband, that
her
just
husband was, yeah,
broke my heart.
and that's because hate words lead to hate actions. And I've always spoken about that. I work very closely with the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Anti-Defamation League. with all these groups and say, hey, listen, these are real threats. I mean, I've been on the receiving end of these threats to the highest level, where I'll have issues with the border patrol, or issues with some of the police, and I'll say, hey, wait a minute, how come if you look at the arrest rate, how come the arrest rates for people of color are so much higher than they are for people that are white? Why is judgment is not justice is not blind? You get a Latino or an African American person that commits the same exact crime as a white person, the justice system will be leaning heavily against the person of color. Look at all these killings in the county jails and so forth.
Right.
There's a long history there. We got to speak out. We got to speak truth to power, and that's why it's so important for our two communities, Black and Brown, to work closely together, because they're going to work to divide us. They're going to work.
Oh, absolutely.
And I remember in the green room you were mentioning about Barack Obama, how more Latinos didn't vote, and when he was a candidate, Senator Obama, and I said, the reason more Latinos are supporting Hillary than Senator Obama, back when it all first started, is because most Latinos and non-Latinos have no idea who Barack Obama is.
Right.
And I go, so if you're trying to say that there's racism there, and he was from Illinois as far as a politician, and I go, he was elected a senator and the Latinos voted for him. Tom Bradley, if I recall, is Black, and he lives in LA. Latinos heavily voted for him.
Absolutely.
So if it was just racism, are there some people that are racist? Yes, but that's an exception. But yeah, be careful, because they'll try to split us up. Look what's happening with Gil Cedillo and Kevin De Leon. If they said those terrible things, they're wrong. But that happened a year and a half ago. Why was that tape just released? To divide us. I was just attacked just a couple of weeks ago by the Union Tribune. That's an issue that was resolved 2.5 years ago. Why do they do it now? Well, there happens to be an election on November 8th. That's why they do it, to divide us. Well, but it really actually empowers us to do more.
Right. Well, I mean, you look at the embarrassment of this Herschel Walker. I can't even fathom.
Yeah, that's insane.
And how they put a figurehead, here, what I consider an Uncle Tom. He has no political experience, aspiration, football player, and I'm not knocking football players, but they're players, and things happen. And, put them on this platform and embarrass us. That's embarrassing.
It is.
It's shameful.
Yeah, it's very shameful. And then the denying what happened in the elections, the QAnon votes. I mean, that is absolutely insane.
Okay, so now how do we? Okay, devil's advocate. They deny the election results, and that's not just the White House. I mean, we're talking Arizona, we're talking Texas. All of these Republicans are standing behind. I'm afraid of a civil war. I really am.
They have guys with guns at the ballot boxes in Arizona. The Minuteman militia that was out here on the border with guns. Come on, and they somehow get away with that type of stuff. If just imagine January 6th, the easiest example. If those people that stormed the Capitol were brown or Black, there would have been so many deaths. So many of the protesters would have been killed. There is absolutely no doubt about that. But then some people will say, "Oh no, of course not." They're even
we were victimized for less. The dogs, the water guns, the water cannons, guns, all of us. I mean, I look at the protesters in Tiananmen Square.
Yeah.
When you go there, and I'm sure you've traveled the world, I was in Tiananmen Square, and there's an energy there of the dictatorship and the fear and all the souls that died as those people were gunned down. The United States is absolutely deplorable. I just came from Europe. I was in 3 countries, 10 cities. I saw 5 unsheltered people. 5. And here there are makeshift tent cities every other corner. I don't care if it's an affluent neighborhood or it's just the local neighborhood, bus stops, downtown. San Diego used to be one of the most majestic places. You go certain corners, nothing but urine and defecation because they don't have a place to stay. I don't understand this. This is supposed to be a place to stay in.
Ad Gloria, what a disaster. These issues are really important issues, and these are universal issues. And one of my big issues is women's rights. That's what right now I'm very active on: women, life, freedom. What's happening to the women in Iran, where they're
Oh my
being killed
God.
because they don't have the appropriate headgear according to the morality police? Where are the people out there protesting for that?
Wait, let me tell you something that I observed. Again, I was on my vacation and I had on my dark glasses, and there was a lot of women from the Middle East there, and they had their hijab, and they all they had were their eyes showing. And I watched them and I could stare because I had on dark glasses. I could really pay attention. These women had to lift this piece of cloth before they could put a bite of food in their mouth. They were not able to go to the pool. They were not able to enjoy anything. And their men sat around like it was the right thing to do. They walked behind them. They walked with their head down. This is 2022. I'm not disrespecting anybody's religious belief. And if this is something that you feel that you need to honor and respect as a woman, continue to do that. But to be mandated, to be dictated, to be killed, there's a morality police.
In the
What is
morality
that about?
police, that's a different issue, because the women that wear the burqa, that's part of their religion and so forth. But as far as the morality police in Iran or the Taliban in Afghanistan and so forth, they could just decide, I don't think you have your clothing on appropriately. I saw you look at, like, the Emmett Till example. I saw you look at a white woman or whatever. Who is going to say if it happened or it didn't happen? If they did, so what? Well, so what if a guy looks at a woman from another? But the racism will take over. They'll stone people. They'll kill people. Masha Amini, that's this woman right here. She was the one that was killed just because they said she didn't have her hijab, her head, her head and scarf covering her appropriately, according to them. Well, we have morality police in the U.S. They're banning
Right,
books. They're telling us what
right.
we can read. They're saying that the critical race theory. They're taking away polling places. They have guys with guns. It's making it harder for people of color to vote. So the U.S. has some of the abortion issue. U.S. has a morality police, and we got to make sure that we do away with that, because a human right is a right for all of us: woman, man, black, blue, red. Who cares what color they are,
Right.
what religion they are, or no religion? We got to treat people equally and with dignity and respect.
But you know
And
what I
that's
think
not
about,
happening.
and I can't get this out of my head, is that okay? So say that this other party takes over. They don't think that they would do the same thing to the same individuals that supported them. I don't know what they're looking for. I don't know what they're seeking. I was talking to the great Jane Elliott, and she was telling me in 30 years that Anglo-Saxons, white people, are going to be the minority.
That's right.
Is that what they're afraid of?
That's
Uh,
what they're afraid of. They're
and
afraid of
and
what they
then
don't
and
know.
then she said to me, she says, and every time I give a speech, April, she says, what they say to me is, well, if they get in power, talking about minorities, are they going to do to us what we've done to them? So they realize that there's been a wrong
Yeah.
that's been done. I don't have time for that. And I don't think that that would be the case. But we want equal rights. But again, it's always been um, a dissension since the beginning of time. I don't know how we're going to grow beyond that. I don't know how we're going to unify. That's what
Yeah.
I want to look for.
Jane Elliott is a woman before her time. I've worked with a great Dr. Cornel West, with Noam
Oh yeah,
Chomsky, with President Obama. I've worked with all of these folks, Dolores Huerta, and I will continue to work with Dolores. I just saw her recently. So it's important that we speak truth to power. We don't lose our motivation. When I think of some of the women that have some of the young women, Malala from Pakistan, or you think of Greta from Norway. These are young women that are promoting women's rights or the environment. That, because our generation has not done a very good job, and I'm part of that generation. So I'm trying to do as best as I possibly can through example. All the groups that I formed were volunteers. We just went out to the cemetery of the not forgotten yesterday, where there's 500 migrants buried in Holtville, and we do a ceremony to remember them and to release butterflies at the end. There's last year there was more than 9,000 people that died crossing from Africa and the Middle East to Europe, while here people crossing from Mexico to the U.S. was around 300. In both cases, there shouldn't be anybody dying. There shouldn't be anybody dying. and they're just looking for a life. They were just looking for a life. I was speaking at a synagogue not too long ago, and somebody said, "Yeah, I saw you on CNN," and I didn't understand why children are being allowed to go on their own and try to get into Mexico or the U.S. have a life. And I said, I'm really surprised you say that because I imagine you're Jewish. I was in a synagogue, and she goes, "That's right." And I said, "Well, it's the story of Moses. When Moses was put in a basket on the river in Egypt, there was no guarantee he was going to live.
That's right.
But there was a guarantee that if his mom didn't do that, he was going to die.
He was going to
That's
die.
what these people are doing." And she says, "I never thought about it that way." Yeah, so we need
Well,
to.
again, the people aren't thinking. They're not putting on their thinking caps. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing as a child.
Well, I was born and raised here in San Diego. My mom, dad, older brother, and sister were all born in Mexico. My dad was offered a job in the United States, so he got a visa, came here temporarily, and we ended up staying here. I went to Our Lady of Angels, St. Augustine High School, University of San Diego State. So I got an honorary doctorate. I got my master's and all that type of stuff. And all five of us children were involved in social service work. All five of us. That's a tribute to my parents, who were both passed away. My mom just passed away last week, as a matter of fact. And
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I've been dedicated my life to this, to human rights, and I've been doing it all my life. I was, like I mentioned, in professional baseball. I was the vice president of Latino and diversity marketing for the Padres from 1995 to 2001. I was the president of the Latino Chamber. So I've had a long career, and I'm retired now, but I'm the executive director of Gente Unida, which works now. Originally, when I started Gente Unida, it was to expose the hate, to stop the nonsense of Fox News, the Minutemen, and all that. And we were very successful. But my concentration had been Border Angels for 33 years. But it came to the point where I said, I got to get back to Gente Unida. We got to make sure that people get out there and vote in 2020, not allow what happened the previous election, where a lot of people didn't vote because their candidate wasn't on the ticket. Well, we can't let that happen. We got to get out there and vote. And so that's what we do with Gente Unida. We go down to the shelters in Mexico and in other countries. Our vice president, who's from the great country of Iran, she dances with the kids because she knows what it's like to be an unaccompanied minor.
Right.
She knows what it's like to come to a country like the U.S. and only speak Farsi, their native language. Right. So, and she works with the Iraqis.
And again, it cracks me up because people think that migrants want to come to the United States. The Ukrainian people wanted to stay into Ukraine or in Europe. They didn't want to come here. They don't speak the language. They don't know the healthcare system. They don't know how to drive on our roads. There's a different culture. Their children, they don't want to just come here.
That's right. That's universal. Most people don't want to leave their homeland. And there's 250 million undocumented people living in a country not their own. The U.S. only has 11 million. And people forget that. And when people tell me about, oh, they should get in line, I go, what line are you talking about? When they came through Ellis Island, they weren't sent back. They just came to check in. And remember, the U.S. did not accept the Jews that were being killed in Germany. The U.S., they stole the land from Mexico. They took half the territory of Mexico. So the U.S. has a lot of history it should be ashamed of. I'm barely learning about what happened in Oklahoma with the Black community. I think a lot of Black people are learning about that for the first time. But we all know it was horrible what they did in bringing the slaves over. And that was something common through the Americas and throughout the world, which was wrong. Did you know that Mexico was the first country in the Americas to have a president that was Black? This is the 1800s, the first. And we were the first country to eliminate slavery, Mexico. And so then, since I come from baseball, I know a lot of people from the Negro leagues, and they said, "Yeah, we used to love playing in Mexico because there, the African Americans, because there we were treated as baseball players. We weren't treated as Black; we were treated as baseball players.
Right.
They couldn't play in the major leagues here. So I try to practice what I preach. I make mistakes like everybody else. I've never had any type of criminal activity or anything like that, of course. But yeah, there's a lot of work to be out there. We would love to have people join Gente Unida. That we're a nonprofit. Our website, genteunidasd.net. I know you're going to post that. We're going to be going out there on the Day of Thanks to meet the day laborers. Yesterday we went and did a ceremony where there's 500 undocumented people buried, that they found in the desert and tried to swim around the wall. We do things in all communities, and we will continue to do things in all communities. The houseless, the various communities I've spoken in, Baptist churches, synagogues, temples, and so forth. And I will continue to do that because I believe that the best thing you can do is be an example. Don't go around saying, do this, do this. No, have somebody say, hey, I like what that woman or that man is doing. I want to do some of that. And that's one of the reasons, the story that I like to share is when I was at USD, Mahatma Gandhi's grandson came there and he shared a very powerful story. And it's a story about a man walking along the beach with his son. And as he's walking along, the little boy is throwing starfish into the ocean. So the father says, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, Dad, I'm throwing these starfish into the ocean. And I said, oh, yeah. So then, and then he goes, but why? And he goes, well, it's so hot out there. The tide has gone in. These starfish are dying. And the father says, son, there's thousands of starfish. What you do doesn't make any difference. So the little boy picks up a starfish and he looks at his dad and he says, it'll make a difference to this one.
Wow.
This one. That starfish could be the next Malala or
right.
Greta or some of these great leaders that we see, especially in our youth. So yeah, so you want to do the right thing whether people are watching or not.
That's right.
And you
want to
be
a leader.
Vote.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you want to be a leader.
And if you can't vote, get people to vote. We have some great people out there doing a lot of work. Estela de los Rios, our common friend.
I know, my sister.
The right thing. She's getting people to vote, getting people to,
get people to vote, educate people, love on them, teach your children right from wrong, try to temper yourself. You may not be able to control others, but you can control yourself.
That's right.
Have a conversation, become cross-cultural. I do that all the time. I did that. I was working for the American Red Cross when I was the outreach coordinator. And I told them that one of my dreams was to work in the field with the migrant workers. Oh, they looked at me with such disdain. It's like, what? I went out there to El Centro and they had the radio tapped to their waist and I was picking asparagus. I didn't know anything about picking asparagus. Enrique, it changed my life. I have that picture on my wall right now. And we danced in merengue and I picked onions and I watched them wrap the lettuce. And I thought these people are working with their hands to nurture, to feed me, to feed my family with pride. I was so happy. And I knew that if I ever had a child that would act up, I would send them right out there to go pick some of them onions because that was not an easy job. And you look at the demographic of people that say, oh, well, I don't want to do that, or I wouldn't do this job. And then you take people that come from other countries that are proud to be laborers, to be proud to come in and remodel your home, to beautify your yard, to clean your house, to watch your children.
Yes.
There is no shame. I think that's the most beautiful thing that you could do is to take care of someone else.
When I was an advisor for President Obama, we had a meeting once and he said, Enrique, remember, before we were us, we were them.
That's right.
And what he meant was that in all of our families, you go back several generations, and you were the newcomer to that particular country, either by force, like with our African brothers and sisters, or the land was taken from them, like the Native Americans or the Mexicans. We were them. And it's the latest wave of immigrants that come to a country that do the hardest work.
That's right.
They just want to survive. Well, people don't like to remember that. And the people that I've never, ever heard a Native American say, stay out, you're taking our land. And they were already here, right? But you don't hear them saying it. It's usually the Europeans, the white folks. And I'm going, wait a minute, you weren't from here? You came here and took the land and so on and so. They don't want to talk about that. That's why they don't want to talk about critical race theory.
Right.
They want to,
Oh,
and
that's
it's because
ridiculous.
they fear the fact that we're going to be the majority, we, the people of color, and they don't know us, so they fear us. But we are not that type of people that are going to say, now we're going to do it to you. That's not who we are.
That's
we're
not who we
family-based,
are.
religious people, faith-based people. Yeah.
But again, we are, we're going to forge ahead. We're going to press forward and we're going to win.
Yes.
Why? Because we have the tenacity, we have the heart. We are soldiers. Okay, we are foot soldiers. That is why we are the chosen people. Whether you choose to believe it or not, I believe it. Yes. And each one must teach one. And I thank you so much for educating us today. You have just been
Thank
a
you,
wealth
bro.
of
Thank you.
information. And I'm going to come down there and volunteer. I don't know what you're going to have me do. Me and Estella are going to come down and support
Good.
you, because I want to meet you and I want to hug you up, and I want to thank you again for, you know, educating and continuing to support the community. And it's not about you; it's bigger than you, and that's
right.
how we're going to fight.
Well, hold you to that, and you're gonna have to teach me how to merengue dance. And we got to get the vote. We got to get the vote out.
We are going to get the vote.
Vote.
And that is the purpose of this message, Brains, is to get out and make a difference. Either you're going to stand for something or you're going to fall for anything.
All right, Brains. I want to see you guys out there. So get out there November 8th, or mail in your ballot like I already have. You can
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And not just this election, all elections.
Right. That's right. Thank you. Gracias. Assalamu alaikum. Yeah.